There's actually a video on how Illidan was beaten in 2 hours in classic TBC. You guys know the speedrun that they did, right? On the initial launch. I haven't watched that, and I think this guy made a video on that, like showcasing how they actually did do it, because they literally did clear Illidan, like the entire Black Temple and Hyjal within 2 hours.
Asmongold already watched this. Guzu, Asmongold plays the game. Asmongold.
Dude, what do you mean? Let's watch it, guys.
It has been running now for over 8 months,
Yep.
and yesterday night, probably one of the most famous raids in the history of World of Warcraft has been...
Go on. 1 sec. Thank you for the 5 though. Let's watch this video.
Released one more time. Black Temple, of course. Along with that, also released Mount Hyjal, on the other end of the spectrum, regarded as one of the worst raids in WoW. And without much surprise, both those raids were cleared very shortly after they got released. Just over 2 hours from their launch, actually.
I have something in my eye. Honestly, personally, I don't really mind Hyjal. I think the reason why a lot of people don't like Hyjal is because they probably wipe on a boss and then they realize they have to kill all the trash again before that boss. If you don't wipe, it's actually not a bad raid. It takes under an hour to clear if you kill every boss one shot.
To achieve that, players had to resort to some insane tactics to not only clear those raids in as little
I'm gonna go up here because there's like a cam down there.
time as possible, but also to compete with each other for which guild will claim classic TBC's Tier 6 world first. So today, we're gonna see exactly how players in 2022 managed to clear Black Temple in just over 2 hours, when originally in 2007, it took players over 20 days to do so. So without further ado, let's get into it.
So from 20 days down to 2 hours. I know what you're gonna say, like, yeah, obviously, like, people know the raid and everything like that, but that's still quite a lot faster, man.
First and foremost, one thing worth noting is that Burning Crusade's Tier 6 raid tier, that being Black Temple and Mount Hyjal, is very particular. Nowadays in modern World of Warcraft, and even throughout Classic, we only ever get one raid per patch. In TBC, it's quite different. Each patch introduced 2 or even 3 raids. So that raises the question, how do you determine who gets world first?
How that's cool though, right? Like in that way TBC is sick. Well, first like we got like Karasan and we got like Rules and Max and like SSC and Tempest Keep and now like Hyjal and Black Temple. That's why there's so much stuff to do right now in TBC.
The consensus seems to be, if you manage to clear both raids in their entirety first, you got world first tier 6. So with that in mind, which guild managed to do that? That credit goes to the guild Progress on Firemaw EU, who managed to deal the final blow to both Archimonde and Illidan in 2 hours and 4 minutes. A bit of history about Progress. This guild has actually been achieving world first since Classic. All the way from Blackwing Lair up until now, Progress grabbed every world first in Classic WoW.
They are a bunch of gamers, Progress. They put in the work, especially on the PTR, man. They prepare a lot for the raids, and it shows, right? They're like always farming.
And Classic TBC, but every time they barely achieve that, sometimes down to seconds. And that's the nature of the world first race in Classic. So for tier 6, it is worth noting that some guilds did decide to only kill the first boss of Hyjal, which is the only boss you need to kill to be able to zone into Black Temple, then cleared Black Temple directly from there. But even though Progress...
Nah, that's kind of like, that's a sussy baka move, isn't it? That's a little bit sus. I mean, it is like, oh, well, we kill Illidan first, but it's like, you know, clear Hyjal, then clear Black Temple. That's the world first. I think so, right? Because it's a release of both raids.
Decided to do it the more legit but longer way by clearing both raids to their entirety. They were only beaten by the guild Turbulence, who managed to kill Illidan just 1 minute before Progress, even though they decided to go directly to Black Temple after only doing the first boss of Hyjal.
So even though Progress killed cleared the entirety of Hyjal, they still were only 1 minute behind the guild that just went directly after Illidan after they killed first boss. That's actually really incredible. Incredible? That's not a word, now is it? That's really incredible.
This goes to show how dominant Progress really is. Even though they did both raids in their entirety, they were only beaten by one guild who decided to go to Illidan directly, and only by 1 minute. And this goes to show how exciting the Race to World First is in Classic. It's very different from Retail's Race to World First in the sense that it generally only gets cleared in a couple hours. But those couple hours are filled with excitement. Because you know, whoever wipes at any point, it's over for them. So it's a question of who goes the fastest while staying as safe as possible. And Progress did some insane things to achieve that we're gonna talk about now. So
it's about like coming up with really good strats and really good ways to save like a little, like if you can save like a few seconds or a minute here and there, it's really good. I remember when SSC came out, there was a guild that tried to do like a weird strat where they like rocket boots off the elevator with like parachute, and they like glide across the thing, land on some of the pipes, and then like go down, but then they jumped down and died. So it was really sad, but that was really sick. You know?
First off, Mount Hyjal. Progress, just like many other guilds, basically used all the tricks in the books to make the raid.
I wonder how these people would perform in retail mythic raids. Probably nowhere close to like the end game raiding guilds in mythic. Like mythic raiding is like a completely different level, because like this is just about like having a good strat and then like doing it right, because there's no real mechanics you have to dodge. Like there's let's be honest, there like mechanics are like literally like run away or like move out of this or like don't get hit by that or like avoid that, right? But in retail it's like it's insane. Like that, it's a whole different ball game. It's not even close to being the same. And yet you wipe the entire raid. Hey, that was only one time, okay? In my defense, thank you very much.
Go as fast as it possibly can go. The thing with Hyjal is that there's no way to really speedrun it. You kill a wave of trash, then the next wave spawns, then the next one, etc. until you clear all the raid. So basically, if you want to go as fast as possible, you have to camp the spawn point of the trash. And that's very dangerous on its own. This means no mana or health regen allowed between the pulls. If people die, they can only get combat rest. And if you wipe at any point, it's pretty much over. Progress did a perfect Hyjal run from start to finish. In fact, many guilds in the world did the same. So now it was a question of who manages to clear Black Temple as fast as possible. And Black Temple was pure insanity.
There's a lot of shit you can skip in here. Like a lot of stuff you can skip. You can almost skip the entire zeros, right?
Entire packs of mobs away and running through them, ignoring them, invisibility skips, rocket boots, pulling bosses and trash together. Progress's Black Temple run was flawless.
I know a lot of people say that like, oh well, the real world first was back in the day when Kungen got it. Yeah, I mean I know, right? Like, obviously that is true. It's not like real world first TBC like Black Temple, but it's still cool seeing these people come up with strats to like how to min-max like this raid, right? It is cool.
Only hiccup they had is at some point they attempted to do what's called a raid reset, where you have everyone disconnect and someone outside the raid resets it. And that's supposed to teleport everyone to the entrance of the raid.
So they killed Gorefiend, and because you have to teleport to Akama, you could go to the entrance of the room, then talk to the guy in the entrance, and then teleport it to Akama to save like a minute of running.
This didn't work for them. And their theory on why this didn't work is that they probably had a GM in the raid watching them. So their raid reset didn't work because the GM was still inside the instance. Other than that, their run was perfect. And that's how they managed to clear both Hyjal and Black Temple in 2 hours and 4 minutes.
If that skip would have worked, they would have gotten world first then. Like actual world first. Because like that other guild actually kill ILLIDAN first, right? They would have probably beaten that other guild then, like in time that like went faster.
So that's what happened yesterday. But let's go back in time. 15 years in the past actually. In June 2007. 6 months after Burning Crusade had released and 22 days after the release of Black Temple. Why did it take Nihilum, the original world first guild, 22 days to defeat Illidan? Just like with many things in Classic, it comes down to 15 years of experience with the game.
Honestly, it's not just that. Let's be honest. Like, people were running on absolute horrible computers. They were lagging. There wasn't as much information out. Like, people were generally just worse at the game back then. You know, it's just a different world back then, right? It really is. I mean, I played on my brother's PC with like a big box, like, you know, those big gray computers computer screens, like it was so scuffed, right?
Experience with the game. In January 2007, when Burning Crusade released, players were still playing on CRT monitors and using dial-up internet connections to play the game. Gaming was still in its infancy, and no one really had access to in-depth guides on Wowhead and YouTube to teach them how to play the game. This could be a reason on its own, but there's more to it than that. Nowadays, before any patch gets released, players across the world test all of its content intensively on the public test realms. Realms made by Blizzard so that the patches release smoothly and bug-free. Obviously, every top guild in the world created tens of characters on the PTR servers and ran Black Temple and Hyjal every day the PTR was up. When Burning Crusade released originally in 2007, it did so in a less than optimal state, to say the least. Pretty much every raid had some kind of bug. McTheridan saw many fixes and nerfs. Vash too, Kael'thas as well, and that's just to mention those. And
Kael'thas wasn't killed before he was nerfed, right? Like back in the day, they actually couldn't kill Kael'thas before they nerfed him. Because it was impossible to kill him, right? Because the advisors had so much health. I remember when we were doing it on the PTR, I think the advisors have 400k health right now. I think in the current game in TBC. On the PTR, the advisors, I believe, had 1.2 million. So they had like 3 times as much health on the PTR. We still killed it on the PTR, but it was way harder. Like way harder.
the thing is, Burning Crusade...
Yeah, they thought it was mathematically impossible to kill it back in the day.
Crusade basically requires you to clear every previous raid to access the higher tier raids, thanks to attunements. Attunements are still present now in Classic TBC, but because Blizzard decided to stagger raid releases, players had more than enough time to get attuned to SSC and Tempest Keep. Then, when those were released, we had more than enough time to get attuned to Black Temple and Mount Hyjal, not to mention the content not being bugged anymore, and Blizzard removing attunement requirements in the middle of patches, just like they will do for Black Temple very soon probably. So yeah, with all those things taken into consideration, plus many other small factors, like the fact that there was way less competition back in the day, it's easy to see why it took Neilum 22 days to kill Illidan, but it only took Progress 2 hours to do so. Here's one interesting fact: Neilum only killed Archimonde 4 days after that, on June 9th. So actually, Tier 6 was only cleared 26 days after its release originally. So
that's surprising. Because, like, it does really feel like Mount Hyjal is so easy. I could see why you would vibe on some of the bosses in Black Temple. Like, I could get that, but Hyjal just seems so easy.
Yeah, now, what's there left to do in Classic Burning Crusade exactly? Well, the game still has 2 more raids left to release. Well,
Suleiman. That is a good raid. I like Suleiman a lot. I remember running that back in the day
more
a lot.
like 1.5 raids actually. Zulaman, which is a 10-man catch-up raid, probably will not have any competition. Or
this is like Karasan, but in my opinion, way better. I loved Suleiman back in the day. I thought it was such a cool raid.
Race to world first, but who knows, maybe. And of course, Sunwell, which is personally my favorite raid of all time.
Never done it.
Sunwell was extremely challenging back in the day. Many guilds till this day regard Muru and Kil'jaeden as 2 of the hardest bosses to ever be added in WoW. But will it be hard 15 years later? Not a single chance. But I think Sunwell will still offer quite a challenge even for modern players. And unlike the previous tiers, tier 6.5, the Sunwell tier, only has this raid and this raid only in it, unlike all the previous tiers we had up until now in Classic TBC. So that should account for a very interesting race. So, if you're watching this and you've been wondering since the start whether you should give Classic TBC a shot, or maybe even get back into it, the answer is definitely yes. It still has a lot in store for us. And this is still Classic, so any previous content is still relevant. People are running Karazhan and Gruul even nowadays, because there's still good loot to get from those previous raids. And we actually made a video on whether it's too late to start the game, which you should definitely check out. As for me, I'm yet to set foot in Black Temple. I'm what you call a filthy casual in this game, but I will definitely give it a shot very soon with my guild, and I'm super excited about that. Illidan is among my all-time favorite bosses in the game, and I'm excited to finally face him on the live servers and hopefully get some of the incredible loot he has to offer. But how was your experience so far? Have you set foot in Black Temple yet? Or are you like me, just casually farming the Netherwing reputation for now? I'm also curious to know if some of you started playing Classic TBC when it first released, and whether you're still playing it now. If you haven't, are you thinking of coming back maybe? Let me know in the comments, I'm super curious about that. With that, if you guys enjoyed this video, remember to give it a like and subscribe to the Classic WoW Curios channel for more content like this. I will see you guys in the next one very soon. Bye for now.
Oh, look at that. I think it's a good video. It's quite interesting to see like how different the world first races go now, like for Classic and stuff like that, right? It is definitely a lot different than it used to be, that's for sure. I'm so casual, I'm not even subbed. I'm having fun with TBC though. I am playing it like a lot more now than I did. I quit a little bit into it. Not quit, but I just didn't really play it. But I'm having a lot of fun now that I'm back into playing it and stuff like that. So that's really, really good. I will link the video in the chat.